This is disturbing to say the least. These are kids.
Very
Parents
disgusting.
took them to this. The audio is taken out on Twitter. Don't worry about it. Let it keep playing.
You know what's also disgusting?
Kids are sitting there, by the way.
He thinks that this is okay. The person doing these moves look at this. Like, it's disgusting.
I don't care if he thinks it's okay. The parents think this is okay. Let him think this is okay. I'm okay with that. I don't have a problem if he thinks it's okay. Those parents who have their kids in there, tell me what the kid is learning. Like, what form of entertainment is this?
It's not entertaining to me at all.
This is like what adults used to go and a bachelorette party, grown adults, and see this stuff, and now you have small children. Well, because again, you have to not. It's not about normalizing the behavior. Like, these are grown adults can do whatever they want. Grown adults can also go and spend money to go see whatever they want.
Right.
It's about normalizing exposure of these things to small children. And it's deeply sick. But what is wrong with that generation? Like, what is the age bracket of parents that have lost their minds here? I think it's like parents in their, 20s, 30s, and maybe even early 40s that are doing this stuff, because I can't think of anyone above that age bracket that I know of that thinks this is sane. But I do know some people in places like New York City who are in their 30s or whatever, that, this is just what's happening in the world, and would take their kids to stuff like this. So I don't know, man. Something's deeply sick going on.
Tom, what does somebody have to pay you for you to take your kids to that entertainment to see something like that? How much money?
There's no amount of money you can give me.
Same here. What is the outcome of something like that? Like
Confusion in the mind of those kids, because you see something like this, it's like a sentence. There's got to be a subject, a predicate, and, a dot at the end of the sentence. And so what are you telling the kids when they're going in to see this? What are they seeing? What are they interpreting? What do they think it's all about? And who's talking with them later? What's really interesting is you take third graders, second graders into a school play, and the school play is about the Revolutionary War. And then what do? We go back to the classroom, we talk about the play we saw, and we debrief a little bit. It's called learning, right? Something at the front of the class, then reflective discussions, and then write something, take a test, all those things. You don't understand. They're just walking out with confusion, PBD. Confusion. You know what I mean? There's no debriefing. How many of your kids, they see something at school, they see a film on Ben Franklin, they come home with a book on Ben Franklin, they debrief on Ben Franklin, and then they sit down and they write a little piece of homework. So there's this full circle coming around. When kids go in to watch that, what did you tell them you were going to watch? What did they think when they saw it? And what did you debrief afterwards? I
want to finish with this. And I appreciate that, Tom. I want to finish with this, Frank, from you, from Jed, from Tom. So somebody's watching this and they're saying, this is freaking ridiculous. I got two kids, let's just say, 4-year-old and an 8-year-old, okay? I got 3 kids, a 9, a 12, and a 15-year-old. But I only make $73,000 a year. I can't afford to put my kids in private school. And I can't afford to stay home because my job doesn't allow me to work from home. I have to go to my work. I don't have a lot of choices. And I'm starting my part-time real estate gig to try to make some money so I can put my kids in private school. But I don't have any say. When I go to my school, I'm in such a liberal left community that I feel like there's nothing I can do. There's 20 of us parents that we all know each other because we go to the same church. What can I do? What do you say to those parents, Jed?
Honestly, what do I say?
Yeah.
Move. That's what I say. I know it's hard. I know, and I understand. I grew up with very little money. My parents didn't have a lot of money. They had to work very, very, very hard to get everything that they have in life. And they made decisions based on, sometimes you just have to go. If you are in a very liberal place and the school districts are terrible, you got to figure out a way to get out. If you can't do the private school and you can't do the homeschooling, some families, are able to make sacrifices and say the dad goes to work and there's a stay-at-home mom and she says, I'm going to take this responsibility on. Not everybody can do that. Some people are in situations where they need 2 incomes coming in. I understand it all. I also understand that moving is not easy, that there's, you have families where you are, you have your home, there's a lot, but this is not going to get any better. In these blue cities, these blue states, it's moving in this direction of these videos that we've seen today and worse. So you have to make a decision at some point of what matters. And ultimately, if you are stressed every single day that you send your kids into a school and you're coming home with a different kid, you got to consider picking up and going to a state where there's at least some parental right protections where you have a say in your kid's life when they're not in your home.
Frank,
Yeah, I would argue, and I would just advise them to, if you can move, do so. And then you also just have to play an active role in what your child is learning. I'm a huge proponent that you should ask your children and be involved in the things that they're learning so you can course correct these actions. And the earlier that you can course correct it, it's very important. When it comes to, what happens in your hometown, Gays Against Groomers is expanding so quickly. We get so many applications for volunteers. Go to our website and see if we have a chapter there. We will deploy someone over there to advocate for you and shield you from these things like we do all across our country. And just definitely just play that active role and make sure that they're okay.
Great feedback. Tom?
And the answer is, once you have kids, you have to decide what you're going to do with any spare minute of time. Is it your hobbies? Is it your desires? Or are you going to invest in this wonderful child that you've been trusted with? And being as close to them as you can so that you can guide with frameworks is point one. Point two is, I won't repeat it, it's everything Jed just said. But I think point one is just making an avowed commitment every spare minute. I don't have hobbies. It's one of the things my kids have noticed. When we were living in Dallas, they say, Dad, you don't go with your friends to the OU football game. That's not a bad thing. But I knew a lot of guys who got these big RVs that would go up and be gone for the weekend for the OU football game. Now, remember, there was only, 5-6 home games for OU. It wasn't happening every week. But they noticed that my time was with them, not doting.
Tom, what a thing you just said. So everybody hit a different point. Yours was move if you can, because the fear of going to school, and every day you're like, my kid's going to change when they come home. That's a real sincere fear that people have. Yours is get active, be involved. Yours is drop some of the hobbies that are not necessary. You have to go to this, you have to go to that. I'm going to go to this game, I'm going to drive to this, and you're missing 18 hours of being with your kids. All great feedback. I will say this to you, and this is not going to be popular. All parents love their kids. I'm convinced. Of course, some of them that go and they don't want the responsibility. The father leaves and does it. Parents that are in their kids' lives, they love their kids. But let's face it, parents. You ain't going to like when I'm telling you this. Just kind of receive it. Sometimes you're a little lazy to want to do your job as a parent. As a leader, believe me, I was a sales leader, and I didn't want to do accountability calls. How many calls did you make this week? Forget about it. I was a lazy leader in my 20s. Then I realized accountability is necessary to develop better leaders. Parents, how was your day today? What did you talk about? What did they bring up? What did you watch? Who did you befriend? Did you have any did you do this? Play them stuff for them to kind of give you feedback and realize you got to keep an eye out for this. You got to choose this. What about this? Talk to the teachers. Email teachers. Trust me, if I were to get a leaders bulletin of how many times parents email teachers to say what happened here, the more teachers know that the parent is involved, just like that abuser said earlier, the more involved the father is, the less I do my thing. The more involved you are, the less the teacher knows that they can't mess with that family. They got to know that this stuff is important to you. So I think some of it is also on parents not being lazy to being involved because your life is so busy with a show you're watching, with a Netflix, with a sports team you're loyal to, et cetera, et cetera. There's nothing more valuable for you to be loyal to than the future of your kids that you brought onto this world. Okay, you're going to need God's help, you're going to need community's help, but most importantly, outside of those two, you also need to lead them properly by being involved.
So if you like this clip and you want to watch another one, click right here. And if you want to watch the entire podcast, click right here.